Welcome to the latest episode of TechPulse, and today we are in Hawaii for the Global Summit by Qualcomm, the Snapdragon Summit, and we have shown you a lot of demos throughout our journey here. But now is the main event. We are sitting down with the man himself. Welcome, Dr. Durga Malladi. How are you feeling?
Good.
And thank you for hosting us. It's been
Sure.
an extremely good experience so far for technology enthusiasts like us.
Glad you liked it.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for you, India perspective, and of course, where the semiconductor landscape is heading to right now. So let's jump right into it. So firstly, my question is that right now, with the growing landscape of semiconductors globally, where do you see India standing its own ground?
So, first of all, India is a pretty important market for us as Qualcomm, but as I kind of think about it, we have a pretty large employee base there. It's about just short of 20,000 people or so spread across in different locations. So we have a lot of employees there, but the reason why we invested in India in that perspective is because we see a lot of local talent that's actually building up some of the important platforms that we rely upon. When we start thinking of, when we say semiconductors over here, we're not talking of, not yet in terms of chip fabs, but actually those who are in the business of, these are the ODMs who actually build in all the right kind of platforms upon which then the next level of OEMs can actually come in. We've seen emergence of a large number of those players, so we work very closely with the ecosystem there to make it happen. So in a nutshell, it's a pretty important space for us, and that's why you see that in our investments there.
Make sure. So I also wanted to understand from the points that you just mentioned. Firstly, when you say that India is a very important market for you, where do you see India as a supplier in today's landscape, in semiconductor landscape? Because it is indeed the golden era of semiconductor. As we all know, globally the demands are surging high. But where do you see India standing in terms of the supply chain, and what is the future for you?
I think my perspective and my exposure in that sense is a lot more from the software ecosystem as opposed to the hardware ecosystem. So I mentioned the ODMs before, but in the software ecosystem, there's a lot of really innovative, smaller startup companies that we have seen building applications, building the software on a large number of platforms. If you think of Qualcomm in general, we have a pretty broad span of products, from everything ranging from doorbells to data centers. So doorbells and smartphones and PCs and XR, consumer and industrial IoT, automotive, etc. So it's a pretty large footprint, but within that footprint, the software ecosystem is actually pretty strong in India in a lot of these domains. So that's a place where it's not quite, I wouldn't say it's semiconductor supply per se, but it's most definitely embedded software that actually builds on top of all the hardware platforms that we have.
Absolutely. And now coming to the second point that you started in your first point itself, definitely there is a huge talent pool in India that we are seeing, and you are an alumni of IIT Madras yourself. Where do you see Indian grads coming out and being part of this journey?
There was an interesting thing that we did. So in the last 1 year or so, after we announced our Snapdragon X Elite compute platform 2 years back, and you could buy these AI PCs in stores, and starting from June of last year, we were on a quest to find out all sorts of third-party applications, generative AI applications that can be written on top of these PCs. So we ran a hackathon, and we did that in multiple places, in New York and Seattle, in Europe, in Japan, in Taiwan, and then we decided to have one in Bangalore. And the funny part is that in a lot of these places, you have about 200 or so. These are hackathons, right? So it's like 3 days intense, 24/7, and then at the end, someone actually gets rewarded. Usually you have something like 200 people that show up. In Bangalore, 2,000 people showed up.
Wow.
It was a huge success. I couldn't believe the number of innovative applications that were eventually written, and we kind of ran out of platforms to give, but on top of that, we could see that people were really energetic and coming out with pretty intriguing applications over there. It was a huge success. In fact, got a note from one of the other companies that we work with, and they said, we also run hackathons, but we've never seen something like this. So that was my first exposure to the local software, smaller startups that are building very innovative generative AI applications, and that's something that we are looking forward to moving forwards.
Absolutely, I think that we are all set in that way. Now coming down to AI, as we know that Qualcomm is very, very bullish about it. I think one of the first companies that is outrightly saying that AI is the new UI, and it's a very impressive catchphrase. I wanted to understand when it comes to AI, and for the viewers as well, be it on-device or cloud AI, how do you see maintaining the balance going forward in the future? And also, how do you see the company itself communicating it to the buyers in terms of differentiation?
I think I'll try to keep it brief, but this is a very important topic actually. We no longer see AI as something which is a property just of the cloud or just on devices. I don't think one needs to be very militant about a binary operation, either in devices or in the cloud. It's going to be on both. Why? Because we can. We can run some pretty large models, some pretty intriguing generative AI applications and AI agents on devices, and we can always run extremely sophisticated agents in the cloud. But the best way to think about this is, and this is something that I'm quoting from a good friend of mine who just talked about it today from Microsoft, Stevie. He said AI is a system actually. It's spread across from devices to the cloud. It's not like it's focused in just one area. When possible, you might want to run your agent or your application on the device. When not possible, you might want to run it on the cloud. And it doesn't have to be just in the cloud. It could be also somewhere in between because it's going through a network like in an enterprise server. So bottom line, we see us entering the age of hybrid AI. AI is going to be pervasive and it's across all kinds of nodes in the network, from devices all the way to the cloud. And so we are making sure that our investments and our products actually span that entire range of products that I talked of.
Absolutely, and that's where my final question of the day comes down to. Qualcomm is one of those companies that is technically everywhere. It's an omniversal entity. You see it everywhere, even though you wouldn't realize it. When do you say an IoT device or a smartphone, and of course laptops, how bullish you have been and how the team has been bullish in terms of laptops as well, how do you see all of this ecosystem coming together and keeping AI intact for the buyers? How do you see that happening?
Well, first of all, our investments are done in such a way that we don't have like 5 different sets of processors for AI across these different products that you mentioned. What we have is a set of processors that are built in such a way that we can actually scale across any one of these product lines by making marginal tweaks and the adjustments that are necessary for that. There is a universe of devices. It is something that Cristiano mentioned earlier, where they all communicate with each other. So for instance, if you just take a look at the world around you, you have a phone, you have a PC, you might have a wearable, you might have your earbuds, and you might have your glasses. They might be from different OEMs, but at the end of the day, underneath the hood, if it happens to be Snapdragon, Qualcomm, as you mentioned, yeah, we are ubiquitous in that sense. We have ways for all of these devices to effectively communicate with each other, especially with agentic AI, so that you take that experience from one device to the other in a very seamless manner.
Absolutely. I look forward to testing more devices by you, and all the best.
All
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And now we have come down to the second segment of this very exciting interview series that we are leading on the TechPulse. Well, we can't not talk about the fact of gaming when we are talking about Snapdragon. So we have the right man to talk that. So welcome to TechPulse.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kedar, for doing this.
Thank you.
Now, we just talked to Durga as well, talking about how AI and computing is working in India and in general. And we can't let you go without talking about gaming with India perspective. Now, first and foremost, how excited are you with the launch that you gave today, and where do you see it in the India perspective and India market as well?
Obviously, I'm very, very excited. I think the way to think about our products is, we're upping the game every time we launch a new generation of products. We raised the bar in our first generation X Elite. We're raising the bar yet again. And we're maniacally focused on offering consumers the best experience possible. And we're true to what we said earlier, which is the PC is reborn, and we continue to go drive that disruption in the market.
Now, the gaming ecosystem in India is growing rapidly. For that matter, now it is being considered an aggressive and, for that matter, a career opportunity as well. Where do you see Snapdragon coming in that and filling that gap as well, encouraging people?
I think everybody wants to play games. Everybody wants to be a creator. Everybody wants to be an influencer. So for us, we're very focused on driving use cases that are needed for that market. One, you start with driving the right silicon. So that's why you see us increasing the capabilities of the graphics core that we have, increasing the capabilities of DDR. So it starts with making sure the silicon is very capable of doing that. Second is making sure we're driving the ecosystem, which is why we drive partnerships with Epic and all of the other game developers to be able to offer and optimize their games. Third is building the partnership to be able to drive that experience on Snapdragon in specific geographies. So obviously India is a very important market. As you said earlier, consumers continue to play games. They continue to be able to use these platforms in innovative manner. So huge focus for us in India.
Absolutely. And my final question for today. When it comes down to AI in gaming, where do you see the prospects growing from there? I mean, when it comes to suggestions, AI is already helping people to understand the game better. Some also claim that it takes away the joy of playing a game. But where do you see AI becoming productive in gaming?
Look, there's angles of, you can call it, earlier we showed something as a partnership with Voice Mod.
Yeah.
You think about all the cool factors that you have, the ability that you're able to enter a particular character and actually be able to transform your voice into that character's voice. Voice Mod, we worked with them to do this. That particular use case runs on the NPU. At the end of the day, you look at what's most important when you're playing games as well. You want accuracy, you want to be able quick response time. You don't want any janks in your games. So we're very much focused on optimizing the games. In addition to that, I think the ability to run some of these capabilities on the NPU and driving intelligence in the PC, I think you'll see Voice Mod is a great example of just one simple use case where you can actually modify your voice to sound as the character.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to test all of this. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
And thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for joining us.